Welcome, Trojan fans. Thanks for joining us today. Get a chance to visit more with our Director of Athletics, Brent Jones, to provide you with an update of how things have been taking place here for Troy University Athletics ever since the COVID-19 pandemic. But Brent, thanks for joining us today and get a chance to update our fans today.
Kyle, thank you for having me on and be able to speak directly to our fans, our student athletes, and our wonderful donors.
And as we look at the timeline right now, the end of the semester is upon us. Finals are wrapping up right now in a very different setting than what our coaches and student athletes are used to. But what's taking place right now for our student athletes, especially with our academic staff and how they're interacting with our student athletes during finals?
Well, I've been really impressed for the last 2 months since we've been on the coronavirus work remotely as well as online education distribution. Our academic staff has been exemplary in what they've done, working with our head coaches directly, as well as with our student athletes. And they're hosting and holding Zoom calls daily and weekly with our student athletes, going over their progress, as well as with our coaches. And so I also asked all of our head coaches to become academic coordinators as well. And so I'm really pleased with what I have seen, what I have heard. And again, this shouldn't be a surprise. Troy University is a pioneer in the online education, going back almost 20 years now. And so a lot of our students had already had online classes. And so this is a familiar setting for them. And I'm really pleased with what our compliance as well as our academic staff has done, almost created individual plans for each one of our student athletes.
And in keeping with our student athletes, recently you had a chance to visit with members of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee, better known as SAC around here. What was that Zoom call like as you had various teams represented by the SAC members there?
I asked to have this meeting. I felt like it was very important for me to be able to speak directly to our student athletes. And really, to be quite honest, it was less about me and speaking to them. It was more about hearing from them. And so to be able to have 15 of our leaders from across the broad spectrum, from football to men's and women's basketball, soccer, cheer, baseball, golf, all the way in between. Some are in Troy, some are in Wisconsin and Minnesota, some are in Texas. We had international students. And so to really be able to talk to them and sort of laid out how we got here, what the decisions were, obviously with the best interest of our fans as well as our student athletes, but to be able to hear from them what they're going through, how are the online classes, how are they feeling, talk about their mental health, talk about their physical health. What blew me away, Kyle, is how much they want to get back to campus, how much they love campus, how beautiful campus is, how much they enjoy the camaraderie with their student athletes. They miss being around our fans and our coaches. And so it really hit me and touched me about how much they love Troy. And to be able to hear that from them was heartwarming, and hopefully we can get them back here as soon as possible when it's deemed safe and healthy.
And right now it seems like Zoom is where all of us are at these days here. Tell us about how some of those conversations are going, whether it's through Zoom or other communication platforms with our coaches and our staff right now. And what are they working on, and what are you having them prepare for during this time?
Well, here's the first thing. So I'll tell you this. So I have at least 3 or 4 Zoom calls a week with our director of department. So it's the head of our departments once a week, as well as our head coaches. And so going over the nuances, what has changed from the week before, from the university, from state, from local, federal, NCAA, Sunbelt, going over budgetary, going over revenue, going over academics, compliance. This is with everyone. We held our second all-staff Zoom call since we've been here, and we'll continue that in probably about 3 weeks, have another one. But then with the Sunbelt Conference and the NCAA, having those as well that are constant. What we're trying to do is to stay up to date with as much correct, current, and accurate information as possible. And then for me to be able to distribute that from our university as well as our conference, the NCAA, and then also the coronavirus and how that is. And so I will tell you this, we've been tasked with how do we come out of this stronger? How do we come out of this more unified, more organized, better prepared, and ready to hit the ground running? And Kyle, as you know, I've tasked you with some things about how we can get ready once the switch is turned, it says, hey, people can come back, as well as having athletic events whenever that may be. And so I will tell you this, we've taken a massive undertaking with all of our athletic alums and created our first comprehensive database based upon our 16 sports. And so that's been fascinating. And really, you need to include 2 more cheer and mascots as well. We're working on baseball. We're working on softball, working on capital projects. We're working on our game plans for, I believe, soccer, volleyball, football, men's and women's basketball, different revenue models. But I will tell you this. These are the times that, we're working hard. Our senior staff, as well as our directors, are in the office. I'm in the office Monday through Sunday working. And so really trying to get ahead as much as we can, stay up to date, but then get ahead on these major projects. And so once our fans are able to come back on, once our student athletes are, that they'll see some of these improvements that we've put in.
In some non-COVID related items here, we recently just announced a football series with UAB that several of our fans are excited about coming up in the future here for us. But talking about football scheduling a little bit, what does that philosophy look like for Troy University?
I'll tell you this, you want to get competitive games, you want to get regional competitive games that both fan bases care about and both fan bases can travel to. And so you've seen that. We're going to release some more, but I love to have home and homes. And so to be able to reunite the rivalry with UAB, which is only 2 hours away, I think it's going to do a lot for their fan base. It's going to do a lot for our fan base. It's very competitive. We recruit against them from athletics standpoint in all of our sports. We play them in every sport too. You think about them, we play them in soccer, we play UAB in men's and women's basketball, we play them in volleyball, as well as softball and baseball. It makes sense to be able to play them in football. But what I'd like to do is you take the regions of, you take Tennessee, you take Georgia, you take South Carolina, you take Florida, you take Alabama, you take Mississippi and Louisiana. That's really our core group there. So look at who are some of the group of fives, as well as the Power Five conferences that we really want to try to schedule. Obviously, we have a great Power Five at home this year with NC State coming out of the Carolinas. And so that's important to be able to get those games when you can. You want to be able to schedule competitive. And I'll just go ahead and tell you, our philosophy from football is this. We've made our bones about anyone, anywhere, anytime type of deal. And so you really only have 4 games to pick from out of conference. And so you need a game guarantee. And that this year is Tennessee, which is a drivable game. Our fan base will really enjoy that game. We have a history of playing against them. Then you have an FCS. You want that FCS to be in drivable distance as well for their fans. And you have Arkansas Pine Bluff to be able to do that. And then you have 2 home and homes, one being away, and that's UMass, which is a group of 5. It does expand our brand up to the Northeast. Boston, major media outlet there. And then you have NC State at home. And that's how we get to those 12 games.
In talking about scheduling a little bit more as well, too, there's several conversations that take place throughout the course of the week related to COVID-19. What kind of conversations are being held at the Sun Belt level right now pertaining to scheduling?
So I would tell you this, the Sun Belt is the forefront of the conferences, and it's looking at all things. We're looking at cost containment. We're looking at how can we better align geographically from scheduling, whether that's just playing conference divisions, that's playing that's your division, as well as out of your division. So that would be the western part. We're on the eastern part. I'm excited about where we're headed. But also you got to look within our footprint. We just talked about UAB. We're going to play from all of our sports, our Olympic sports, as well as our revenue sports. We're going to play a very regional schedule. And so where we can drive, where the teams can drive down as well. And so really taking a look and approach at that. But I'll tell you this, from the coronavirus, we meet, the Sun Belt Conference has put a medical coronavirus task force together. Dr. Jeffrey Dugas, who's based out of Birmingham, he's our team surgeon, orthopedist. He's world renowned. He sits on the NCAA's board as well. And so he's able to, you talk about Troy. Troy's a leader in online education. Troy now is being the leader now in the coronavirus and the information that we're gathering from that. And so he's able to give me all of this information as possible. But what we need to do So we're looking regionally as how can we pick up some of these rivalries back up, whether that be FAMU, whether that be FSU, whether that be Tulane, Kennesaw State, Georgia Tech, Auburn, Alabama, everywhere in between. We're making sure that we can play this regional group as much as possible.
Some great news recently came out for spring student athletes across the board for NCAA, where they can regain some eligibility. So what does that look like for our Troy student athletes that are impacted with our spring sports?
I'll tell you this is you never want to take something away from a student athlete. And that was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking for our 5 seniors. Our women's basketball team was not able to compete in the Sun Belt Conference tournament down in New Orleans. But then also you have all of our spring sports. So that is men's and women's golf, that is track and field, that is men's and women's tennis, that's softball, baseball. And so we have a decent amount of seniors in those sports. Some are full head counts, some are equivalency sports where it's percentage based. And so what I would tell you this is Troy University, Troy Athletics has stepped up again through budgetary items, as well as looking at shifting some things. We're going to be able to fund any of the seniors who want to come back for that 5th year, the additional year. We're going to be able to fund that. And so there's 2 caveats with that. The student athlete has to want to come back and compete, and the coach has to want to come back and compete. And both of those have always matched up together. And so we're excited about being able to offer that for our 5th year seniors, that additional year. It's important. We talk about One Troy all the time. I think it's right for our student athletes. I think it's right for our coaches, and it's right for our program.
Spring cancellations also extended into our fan base as well too, especially with baseball season ticket holders for that matter there. So what steps have been taken to work with and support our baseball season ticket holders that obviously there's games that were not played that they were looking forward to?
Well, first off, it's disappointing when your games are not played, and we have such an amazing fan base. We sell top 3 in the conference in baseball season tickets. We actually sold an additional 100 season tickets this year, the highest we had sold in almost 5 years. And that goes to the credit of your staff, as well as Chris Will and Ryan Kay and what they're able to do, and Ebony Jackson as well. And so as this sort of developed over time, we thought about giving a credit, Kyle. We had these internal discussions. What can we do best for our fans? And so one of the things is we had a lot of our fans reach out to us and say, hey, don't even bother calling me. I don't want my money back. I want to be able to donate it. So that was the first thing. And it was really nice to hear that a lot of our fans said, hey, just donate this to the program, donate this to the athletic department. But then there's also some others that we had to think about, all right, what's the best formula going forward? Is it to be able to credit for baseball? Is it to be able to credit for basketball? Is it to be credit for football? And that's sort of what we landed on. The people who wanted to donate to the department as well as baseball, then we were going to credit to baseball, football, basketball. However, after I saw the coronavirus and sort of how it was taking, this was probably the 3rd week we had landed on this. So this was at the end of March. And then probably in the middle of April to late April, I really started thinking about, man, this, I want to do whatever we can for our fans. Kyle, you and I talk about this a lot, and our fans have maybe heard us say this, but it's fans first approach. And so the more and more I thought about this, I felt like, what can we do to put some extra money in our pockets of our fans? And so that's when we came up with, we had played 30% of our baseball games. And so to give each one of our fans who wanted that credit, instead of having a credit for football season or baseball season, we were simply going to refund them the 70% of those season tickets, because I wanted them to be able to have that money. I know they're going to come back. I know they're going to support our program just like they did in football this year to record numbers, just like they did in men's and women's basketball, just like they did in baseball this year. And so this is our way of just saying thank you, and for us to be able to do something nice for them.
At that point, for sure, definitely a huge thank you to our fans who have been with us through thick and thin. And this is a trying time for everybody, for certainly, as we continue moving forward with everything here. But when you look at some of the key items that are being discussed across the landscape of NCAA, coronavirus protocols, NCAA transfer rules, rather, are 2 of those key items that have been in discussions here recently. Can you give us an update on those items and how that pertains to NCAA members?
Well, I'll tell you this, we are a membership group. So, we're all in this together. And then you also have the name, image, and likeness. So the NIL piece is part of this. You also have the piece of what you talked about with the transfer portal in the 1 year exemption. And that would be for hockey. That would also be for men's and women's basketball. That would be for baseball and football. The rest of the sports do not have to sit out with that as part of it. And so that's what the NCAA is going through right now. They're also going through the name, image, and likeness piece. And that's really been brought to the forefront because of the states. Different states across the U.S. California was one of the leaders of really building a name, image, and likeness aspect for the student athletes in the NCAA. So the NCAA, instead of having state by state, be able to have rules and regulations. So it might be different in the state of Alabama compared to Texas, or Texas compared to California and New York. Really try to get a handle on this and make it all together. So the NCAA is working on that. They came out with the task force of the NIL, came out with the task force as part of this. And so we'll have a better understanding of this probably, I think, in January, talking about the waiver piece for the transfer. I think that's going to be paused on right now. And then you look at the coronavirus, there were some protocols that the NCAA released Thursday or Friday of last week, 3 different steps on how you get back to playing, and the NCAA released that. And so we're doing a deep dive into that, as every university and every athletic department is. And so those are a lot of things that are cumbersome, take time, and that we're digging into.
And for our fans listening back home, if you happen to hear sirens in the background, it's just a test taking place there for everything. So we're fine with the weather here right now. But to close things up here for us, Brent, a non-COVID related question here for you. I guess in some ways it is related to that. But as we're all in the midst of quarantining right now, we're all discovering new TV shows, whether it's with our family or our friends and such there. So what are some of those new items that maybe the Jones household is discovering and watching a little bit more in depth during these time frames?
I'll tell you this, Kyle. It's about a TV show that you're talking about, but it's a different time now. I'm working Monday through Friday, and then Saturday and Sunday as well. And so to have those nights and weekends with your family, as we're not at sporting events, to be able to sort of rekindle. I will tell you this: we haven't picked up any TV. We have not picked up any new TV shows, but I will tell you what we have done is we have opened books. And I started reading again. Every morning, we're taking a look at some of our health and how we can get even better health-wise. And so every morning I'm running 3 miles. And then every afternoon I'm pitching to my son, Jackson, who's 6 years old. I'm throwing anywhere between 100 to 150 balls. You can't see it right now, but my shoulder is killing me as I'm a lot older than I thought I was before. But from a family time of us doing, instead of we've kept the TV off. And what we're doing is we have come back to a game that I loved in college as well as high school and growing up, called Uno. And so we're playing. We have these games that we get after it in Uno every night, to the point now that we're actually playing Uno Flip, which you can play on the normal side, the dark side, and you can flip them back and forth in between. And to be able to have that time with my 6-year-old, my 5-year-old, my wife, it's really outstanding to have that time.
Well, fantastic. Well, Brent, thank you so much for the time today, and thanks for getting a chance to share some more insight with our fans. To all Trojan Nation, we appreciate your support. We hope that you and your families are doing well during this time, and we look forward to staying in touch with you. Be sure to follow us on social media, stay up to date with all the latest taking place in Troy athletics. But thank you for your support, and we'll see you again soon.